Think Namibia is just about endless deserts and safari animals? Wait until you find out there's a tribe where women cover their bodies in red clay and men aren't allowed to milk cows. You won't believe that this country has a town that looks exactly like 1800s Germany, and here's the crazy part. It's illegal to take photos of certain buildings there. Get ready to discover why Namibians pay some of the highest prices in the world for basic groceries. Yet diamonds are literally scattered across their beaches. Number 15. There's a German town frozen in time in the middle of the Namib Desert that's more German than Germany itself. You heard right. Swakopmund looks like someone copy-pasted a Bavarian village into one of Earth's oldest deserts. The historical architecture in Swakopmund is reminiscent of a German town in the 1800s with buildings featuring domes, towers, turrets, oriel windows, and embellished facades. Picture this. You're walking down palm-lined streets past half-timbered houses with Gothic spires, hearing German spoken in cafes, while sand dunes tower 300 feet high just outside town. The locals still serve authentic German sausages and beer, celebrate Oktoberfest with lederhosen and dirndls, and you can get better pretzels here than in Munich. Think it's just tourist nostalgia? Think again. This is daily life for 44,000 residents who maintain German cultural traditions that have actually been preserved better than in modern Germany itself. The town even has a German-language newspaper that's been running since 1898. Here's the wild part. During Namibian winter, this desert town gets so cold and foggy that it feels more like Northern Europe than Africa, with temperatures dropping to 50 degrees Fahrenheit while you're surrounded by ancient sand dunes that predate the Amazon rainforest. Number 14. The Himba tribe has one of the world's most extreme gender role reversals, and it's not what you think. Wait until you find out that in Himba culture, men literally cannot touch milk or dairy products because it would make them unclean. Only women are considered pure enough to handle the sacred task of milking cows and managing dairy. The Ova Himba represent part of indigenous peoples of Namibia that include San, Nama, Ova Himba, Ova Zemba, Ova Jimba, and Ovatwa, together representing around 8% of the total population. Picture a Himba man who needs milk for his morning coffee. He literally cannot pour it himself and must ask a woman to do it for him, or he'll be considered spiritually contaminated. The women cover their entire bodies and hair with a mixture of red ochre, butterfat, and aromatic herbs called ajais, creating a deep red coloration that protects them from the harsh desert sun and symbolizes Earth's rich red color and blood of life. Here's where it gets really fascinating. While women handle all dairy and are responsible for water collection, sometimes walking 6 hours daily, men focus on herding cattle and political decisions. But here's the twist. Himba society is actually matrilineal, meaning inheritance and clan membership pass through the mother's line, giving women ultimate generational power despite the strict daily role divisions. Sounds unbelievable, but anthropologists estimate this system has remained unchanged for over 500 years. Number 13. Namibia has diamond beaches where precious gems literally wash up on shore, but touching them could land you in prison for 15 years. Sounds like a treasure hunter's dream, right? Wrong. The Sperrgebied, or Forbidden Zone, stretches along 200 miles of Namibia's Atlantic coast where diamonds are so abundant they're found just lying on the beach sand. Trading diamonds and precious stones is illegal with long prison sentences for violations. You heard right. There are beaches where million-dollar diamonds sparkle in the surf, mixed with ordinary shells and pebbles. The desert winds blow these gems from inland deposits directly onto the shore, where ocean waves polish them to perfection. Here's the scary part. This entire coastal region is completely off-limits to the public, patrolled by armed guards, and monitored by aircraft 24/7. If you're caught with even a tiny diamond in this zone, you face up to 15 years in prison, no questions asked. Think you could sneak one small stone? Think again. Security checkpoints use X-ray machines and metal detectors so sensitive they can detect a diamond chip smaller than your fingernail. The irony? Namibia produces some of the world's highest quality diamonds, but locals can't afford to buy them because export restrictions make domestic prices 300% higher than international markets. Even diamond mine workers undergo full body searches twice daily and work under constant video surveillance. Number 12. The cost of living in Namibia is so extreme that a single apple can cost $3, making it more expensive than shopping in Manhattan. Wait until you find out why a basic grocery run in Windhoek costs more than fine dining in New York City. Namibia imports about 50% of its cereal requirements, and many other items used in daily life also need to be imported, with high transportation costs making prices very high and unaffordable. Picture this. A gallon of milk costs $8, a loaf of bread runs $4, and a basic chicken dinner for two at a mid-range restaurant will set you back $60. You heard right. Namibians pay more for groceries than people living in Swiss cities. Here's why this happens. Namibia imports 90% of its manufactured goods, and everything must travel thousands of miles across difficult terrain to reach stores. A simple bottle of shampoo that costs $2 in South Africa becomes $12 by the time it reaches a Namibian shelf, after transportation, import duties, and retailer markups. The situation gets even more bizarre when you realize that Namibia exports high-quality beef and fish to Europe, but locals can't afford to buy their own country's premium products because export prices are higher than what's charged domestically. Here's the kicker. A McDonald's Big Mac meal costs $15 in Windhoek, making it one of the most expensive fast food markets globally, yet the average monthly salary is only $400. Number 11. There's a region in Namibia called the Skeleton Coast where ships have been wrecking for 500 years, and the desert is literally eating them alive. Here's the scary part. This 300-mile stretch of coastline has claimed over 1,000 ships, and the Namib Desert slowly buries each wreck under tons of sand, creating a maritime graveyard that's constantly changing. The Portuguese sailors called it the Gates of Hell because the combination of strong Atlantic currents, dense fog, and massive sand dunes created perfect conditions for disaster. You won't believe what you'll find there today. Massive steel ships from the 1960s sitting hundreds of yards inland, completely surrounded by desert sand that has blown in over decades. Picture walking through what looks like an empty desert and suddenly stumbling across the rusted hull of a 400-foot cargo ship, now home to desert elephants and brown hyenas. Think these wrecks just sit there peacefully? Think again. The constant wind moves up to 30 tons of sand per day, meaning ships literally disappear and reappear as the dunes shift. Here's the wild part. Some wrecks have become accidental oases where shipwrecked sailors' graves are now surrounded by vegetation fed by underground water that flows beneath the sand, creating tiny green patches in an otherwise barren landscape. The newest addition? A Korean fishing vessel that ran aground in 2008 and is already half buried, proving this deadly coast is still very much active. Number 10. The Sand People of Namibia can track a single animal for 200 miles across the desert using skills that would make GPS technology seem primitive. Sounds unbelievable, but sand hunters can follow a 3-day-old footprint across rock-hard ground and tell you the animal's gender, age, health condition, and exactly when it passed through. The San represent part of indigenous peoples that together make up around 8% of Namibia's total population of 2,484,780. Picture this level of skill. A sand tracker can look at a barely visible scuff mark on a stone and determine that a specific kudu passed by 48 hours ago, was limping slightly on its left rear leg, stopped to eat a particular type of berry, and was being stalked by a leopard. You heard right. They can literally read the desert like a detailed book that most people would see as completely blank. Here's where it gets really fascinating. Sand hunters use a tracking technique called persistence hunting, where they chase animals for 6 to 8 hours in 120-degree heat until the animal collapses from exhaustion, while the hunter remains strong due to their superior cooling system and endurance training that starts in childhood. The Kalahari Desert might look empty to outsiders, but sand people can identify over 200 different tracks, read wind patterns to predict where animals will seek shelter, and navigate using star positions with accuracy that rivals modern GPS systems. Think this is just folk wisdom? Think again. The South African military has hired sand trackers to find lost hikers and fugitives when their advanced technology fails, and these trackers have a 95% success rate in conditions where satellite tracking becomes useless. Number 9. Namibia has a forbidden underground city built by German colonists that most Namibians don't even know exists. Wait until you find out about the massive tunnel network beneath Windhoek that was constructed during German colonial rule, and remains largely sealed off to this day. It's illegal to take photos of government and military infrastructure, with violations carrying long prison sentences. You heard right. There's an entire subterranean world featuring German-engineered tunnels, storage facilities, and bunkers that were designed to house colonial administrators during potential uprisings. Picture walking through downtown Windhoek, completely unaware that 30 feet beneath your feet lies a network of stone corridors wide enough to drive trucks through, complete with ventilation systems and emergency supplies that were meant to last months. Here's the scary part. Most of these tunnels are still structurally sound after 120 years, showcasing German engineering that puts modern construction to shame, but they're completely off-limits and heavily guarded. The few people who have accessed these areas describe rooms filled with pre-World War I German military equipment, vintage communication devices, and storage areas that still contain colonial-era documents written in Old German script. Think you could explore these legally? Think again. Photographing any government or military infrastructure in Namibia, including historical sites like these tunnels, carries penalties of up to 10 years in prison. The irony? Many German tourists visit Namibia to see colonial architecture above ground, never knowing that the most impressive German constructions are buried beneath the modern city streets. Number 8. The Namibian government once accidentally created a massive ecological disaster by trying to control nature, and the results are still visible from space. Here's the funny part. In 1985, Namibian officials decided to fix the natural flooding patterns of the Zambezi River by building unauthorized channels, which created a man-made environmental catastrophe that changed the ecosystem of an area larger than Connecticut. Picture government workers with bulldozers trying to redirect one of Africa's major rivers because they thought they knew better than millions of years of natural evolution. You won't believe what happened next. The diverted water created massive new wetlands in areas that had been dry for centuries, which sounds good until you realize it displaced 15,000 people and destroyed traditional grazing lands that local communities had used for generations. The newly flooded areas became breeding grounds for disease-carrying mosquitoes, increasing malaria rates by 400% in surrounding communities. Here's where it gets really wild. Satellite images from NASA still show the unnatural water patterns created by this project, with bright green vegetation growing in geometric shapes that clearly indicate human interference rather than natural river systems. Sounds like they learned their lesson? Think again. The altered landscape continues to flood unpredictably every rainy season, forcing wildlife to migrate along completely new routes and confusing animals that have followed the same paths for thousands of years. The total cost of this improvement project? Over $200 million in damages and ongoing environmental restoration efforts that continue today. Number 7. Namibia has a town where it literally never rains, but residents still pay for water that's more expensive than gasoline. You heard right. Arandis receives an average of 0.2 inches of rainfall per year, making it one of the driest places on Earth, yet residents pay $8 per gallon for water, while gasoline costs only $5 per gallon. High transportation costs make prices very high and unaffordable due to the need to import many daily life items. Picture living in a place so dry that children grow up without ever seeing rain, where the concept of puddles is completely foreign, and where every drop of water must be trucked in from sources over 300 miles away. Wait until you find out that this town exists primarily to serve uranium mines, so workers earn good salaries but spend 60% of their income just on basic water needs for drinking, cooking, and bathing. Here's the bizarre part. Residents have developed an entire culture around water conservation that would make environmentalists weep with joy. They reuse bathwater for cleaning, collect condensation from air conditioners, and some families survive on just 2 gallons per day, while Americans use 80 gallons daily. The local hospital has special protocols for treating dehydration because even wealthy residents sometimes ration water too strictly to save money. Think the government helps with subsidies? Think again. Water costs continue rising because trucking companies charge premium rates to deliver to such a remote, hostile location, where trucks often break down in the extreme heat and drivers demand hazard pay for crossing the desert. Number 6. The Ovambo people practice a marriage tradition so extreme that couples don't live together for the first 5 years and divorce rates are practically zero. Sounds unbelievable, but in traditional Ovambo culture, newlyweds are forbidden from sharing a home until they've proven their marriage can survive extended separation and individual growth. Picture getting married and then immediately returning to live with your respective families, while seeing your spouse only on weekends and special occasions. Here's where it gets really fascinating. During these 5 years, both partners must demonstrate their value to the community through separate achievements. Men by proving their farming or herding skills, women by showing mastery of traditional crafts and child-rearing knowledge with other family members' children. You won't believe the reasoning behind this system. Community elders believe that couples who can maintain love and commitment while living apart will have unbreakable bonds once they finally move in together. The results speak for themselves. Traditional Ovambo marriages have divorce rates below 3% compared to global averages of 40 to 50%. Here's the twist. During the separation period, both partners are encouraged to travel, learn new skills, and even work in other countries, with many couples using this time to save money for their future household while gaining life experience. Think this creates problems with fidelity? Think again. The social pressure and family monitoring during this period is so intense that infidelity is virtually impossible, and couples report that finally living together feels like a celebration rather than an adjustment period. Number 5. Namibia has uranium deposits so rich that the ore literally glows in the dark, but the mining town built above them is one of the most dangerous places to live on Earth. Here's the scary part. Rossing Mine produces uranium ore so concentrated that workers need protective gear just to approach certain areas, yet the nearby town of Arandis was built directly on top of radioactive soil that wasn't properly tested before construction began. You heard right. Families live in houses where basement radiation levels exceed international safety standards by 800%, causing cancer rates that are 15 times higher than the national average. Picture children playing in yards where Geiger counters start clicking frantically, while parents worry about every headache or unusual fatigue symptom. Wait until you find out that this uranium is so valuable that Namibia supplies 10% of the world's nuclear fuel, making it a critical resource for global energy production, yet local residents see none of the profits while bearing all the health risks. The mining company provides free medical checkups, but here's the kicker. They're not allowed to discuss radiation-related health issues with patients due to corporate liability concerns. Workers at the mine earn excellent salaries, often 10 times the national average, but life expectancy in Arandis is 12 years shorter than in other Namibian towns. Think the government intervenes? Think again. Uranium exports generate 25% of Namibia's foreign currency, making it too economically important to restrict, even as independent health studies show alarming patterns of birth defects and respiratory illnesses among long-term residents. Number 4. The Nama people have a clicking language so complex that it uses 47 different click sounds, and Google Translate still can't figure it out. You won't believe how intricate this communication system is. The Nama language contains click consonants that require precise tongue positioning against different parts of the mouth, creating sounds that most non-native speakers physically cannot produce even after years of practice. The Nama represent part of indigenous peoples that together make up around 8% of Namibia's total population. Picture trying to learn a language where the difference between asking for water versus asking for directions involves a tongue click that must hit the exact center of your palate at a specific angle and pressure. Here's where it gets really fascinating. Nama contains emotional and contextual information embedded within the click patterns themselves. So the same word clicked differently can express sarcasm, respect, urgency, or affection without adding any other sounds. Sounds challenging? Think again. Nama children master all 47 click variations by age 6, while linguists with PhDs struggle to differentiate between even basic clicks after decades of study. The complexity goes beyond just sounds. Nama has separate grammatical structures for different social relationships, meaning you literally speak differently to your grandmother versus your cousin, with specific click patterns that indicate your exact family connection and relative age status. Here's the wild part. When Nama speakers move to cities and primarily use English or Afrikaans, they often lose the ability to produce certain clicks within just one generation, making this one of the world's most rapidly disappearing complex communication systems. Number 3. Namibia has a region called the Caprivi Strip that was created by one of history's most bizarre colonial map drawing mistakes, and it nearly caused World War III. Wait until you find out that this narrow strip of land, only 20 miles wide but 280 miles long, exists because a German Kaiser in 1890 wanted access to the Zambezi River, but had never seen an actual map of the area. Picture European officials in Berlin drawing straight lines on maps without realizing that massive Victoria Falls would make river navigation completely impossible, creating a geographic absurdity that looks like someone attached a skinny arm to Namibia's main body. Here's the scary part. During the Cold War, this strip became a crucial battleground where South African forces fought Cuban and Angolan troops, with over 30,000 soldiers clashing in an area smaller than Rhode Island. You heard right. This colonial map-making error nearly escalated into a nuclear confrontation when Soviet advisors threatened to intervene directly, and American satellites detected unusual military buildups that triggered DEFCON 2 alerts in 1987. The fighting was so intense that unexploded landmines still kill people today, 35 years after the conflicts ended. Here's the bizarre part. Locals in the Caprivi Strip feel more connected to Zambia and Botswana than to the rest of Namibia because they're separated by 300 miles of desert and have different languages, cultures, and even different wildlife. Think integration has improved? Think again. In 1999, Caprivi residents actually attempted to secede from Namibia and join Botswana, leading to armed conflict that required military intervention and resulted in hundreds of arrests. Number 2. The welwitschia plants in Namibia can live for over 2,000 years on less water than a cactus needs, and scientists still can't figure out how they do it. Here's the mind-blowing part. These plants survive in areas that receive less than 0.4 inches of rainfall per year by using a root system so advanced that it makes modern agricultural irrigation look primitive. You won't believe what these ancient organisms can do. Welwitschia plants grow only 2 leaves in their entire multi-millennium lifespan, but these leaves continue growing continuously for centuries, becoming twisted and weathered into shapes that look like alien sculptures scattered across the desert landscape. Picture a plant that was already 1,000 years old when Christopher Columbus reached America, and it's still alive today, thriving in conditions that would kill most vegetation within days. Wait until you find out their secret survival mechanism. These plants can absorb moisture directly from fog through specialized leaf pores, essentially drinking from the air when no groundwater exists for hundreds of miles. Here's where it gets really wild. The oldest known welwitschia is estimated to be 2,500 years old, making it older than Christianity, and it's still producing viable seeds that can germinate after lying dormant in the sand for over 50 years. Scientists studying these plants have discovered that they use a form of cellular water recycling that's so efficient it violates conventional understanding of plant biology. Think they're fragile? Think again. Welwitschia can survive being run over by trucks, buried in sandstorms, and exposed to temperatures that swing from 140 degrees Fahrenheit during the day to near freezing at night. Number 1. Namibia has more wild cheetahs than the rest of the world combined, but they're being systematically eliminated by farmers using methods so brutal, they're banned in most countries. You heard right. 70% of the world's remaining wild cheetah population lives in Namibia, approximately 4,200 of the planet's 6,000 cheetahs, yet this number drops by 300 animals every single year due to human-wildlife conflict. Here's the scary part. Namibian livestock farmers legally use methods to eliminate cheetahs that would result in animal cruelty charges in Europe or North America, including gin traps that cause slow, agonizing deaths, and poison baits that also kill other predators and scavenging birds. Picture the world's fastest land animal, capable of reaching 70 miles per hour, dying a slow death in a wire snare because it killed a goat worth $30. Wait until you find out the economic reality. A single cheetah can kill $5,000 worth of livestock per year, but livestock farming is worth $400 million annually to Namibia's economy, making cheetah conservation a luxury most farmers can't afford. The situation gets even more heartbreaking when you realize that cheetahs avoid humans and primarily hunt wild antelope. But habitat loss forces them onto farmland where conflict becomes inevitable. Here's the twist that makes this even more tragic. International tourists pay over $2,000 each to see wild cheetahs, generating more revenue per animal than livestock farming, but most of this money goes to large tour companies rather than local communities who bear the cost of living alongside these predators. Think conservation efforts are working? Think again. Genetic testing shows that Namibian cheetahs are so inbred from population bottlenecks that they have less genetic diversity than laboratory mice, meaning even if hunting stopped tomorrow, the species might not survive the next century due to genetic collapse. So we've just discovered Namibia's most incredible secrets, from underground German cities to plants that live for millennia, tribes with clicking languages that Google can't translate, and cheetahs facing extinction in their last stronghold. Which one shocked you the most? Have you ever experienced anything this surprising while traveling? If these hidden facts about Namibia blew your mind, smash that subscribe button because next week we're uncovering the most unbelievable secrets about Madagascar that will change everything you thought you knew about island life.